Steele, and welcome to our session, Rewriting Indonesian History. Are you guys listening? I hear a lot of chatting. This is going to be a really exciting program because, as you know, we've talked a lot about decolonizing Indonesian history, and David's book is fantastic, and Bonnie did an outstanding job of interviewing him, I guess it was yesterday or 2 days ago. But this is the first panel where we actually have two Indonesians, journalist, member of parliament, historian, former journalist, who are going to talk about rewriting Indonesian history. So I think this is a real opportunity. We're not just listening to the foreigners and our take on all this, but we're actually going to hear from two very active and very, very smart Indonesians who are going to discuss these topics. Let me quickly introduce them. Some of you have already met Bonnie. He's an Indonesian historian and politician. He's the founder and senior editor of the history magazine, Historia.id. He's also the founder, initiator of the Multatuli Museum and Arts Festival in Banten. He studied history at Diponegoro University and has an MA from University of Indonesia. And interestingly, we'll talk about this, he was one of the curators of an exhibition on the Indonesian Revolution at the Rijksmuseum in the Netherlands, which led to a big brouhaha, which we'll talk about. He's also a member of parliament, and that's a whole different story that we probably won't even get into. But he is on, Commission 10, which is involved in the rewriting of Indonesian history, which we're going to hear a lot about, because this is actually happening. This is not just a theoretical panel on, writing Indonesian history. Indonesian history is being officially rewritten right now, and the lady who launched 1,000 ships here is my friend Uni Lubis. She is a journalist. She's been a journalist for 35 years. She's an editor. She was on the press council. As a lot of you know, I've written about Indonesian journalism. There are very few senior editors who are women, and Uni is an outstanding one. Yeah. Okay. Bonnie is good at leading the applause, so that's good. You'd be a great MC. She's done all sorts of things. She was a managing editor of Indonesian Rappler, which I had forgotten about. But IDN Times is a digital platform aiming mostly at younger people, at Gen Z, millennials, etc. She has a weekly podcast called Real Talk with Uni Lubis. And wow, a couple of months ago, she did an interview with Fadli Zon, the Minister of Culture, who, by the way, just for your interest, he's here in the program. He's not here, but we're going to be, his ears will be burning because we're going to be talking about him a fair bit. Anyway, Uni interviewed him, and you were discussing lots of things, and then this official rewriting of Indonesian history came up. And Uni, why don't you tell us what happened in the podcast, what you brought up, and what he said?
Well, thank you, Ibu Janet. She is my idol, so I'm a bit nervous actually. Thank you, Ubud Writer and Reader Festival for having me. I fully agree the history is now, rewriting history is really happen now. And you know, I cover Indonesia politics a lot. I mean, I was there on the ground during the Reformasi demonstration in May 1998, included covering the story, the tragedy about the rape. The victims,
Yeah.
predominantly the victim is Chinese women descent. And at that time, there was several activists, women activists, create the joint fact-finding team to investigate not only the May 98 riots, but also the rape case. And then the result of the fact-finding team submitted by the activists, especially the women activist team, chaired by Professor Saparina Sadli. Now she is 96 years old, like the guru among the women activists in Indonesia, to the President Habibie that time, the one that replaced the dictator of President Suharto that stepped down because of Reformasi 98. And President Habibie took one of the recommendation from the fact-finding, which is the setup of the National Commission on Anti-Violence Against Women, Komnas Perempuan, under the Presidential Decree 181, number 181, 1998. So the commission and the case, which is the commission stated that 52 victims. That's the finding. So it's legitimate fact-finding, legitimate report, accepted and acknowledged by the government, right? The president issued the decree. And then I think fast forward, started probably May, Boni know exactly, the government of President Prabowo via the Minister of Culture, Fadlizon, which is his protege, his like little brother of Prabowo, Subianto, super close, yeah, honest, like the twin, yeah. Behind the scene, he was the one they proposed Prabowo to set up the political party after Prabowo came back from the exile, right? You know all the you can search why he has to live abroad. And they have this program rewriting national history book.
Right.
Yeah,
like 10 volumes of
10
it, right?
volume,
10 volumes.
10 times, 10 billion IDR. But that time I haven't have interest to interview Fadli until one of he said that he set up 100 historian expert for the project, but he never announced who is the 100 except the chair.
And Bonnie, you're not one of them, right? You're not one of
No.
yeah, okay.
And then one of the professor, historian, quit. And the media interview him. Why he quit? Because the government, he said, the ministry asked the team to do things that quote unquote manipulate the history, and then they don't want to put the riots, May riots 98. So I start to put my attention, and then I got the concept, like 30-page concept that present by Fadlizon in the parliament. Boni can talk. So I asked him for interview. At first, it's I never not that kind of person that like chasing. No, not my style. And then I asked, but why I interested? Because I want to know whether the rewriting history, will be, as always, predominantly by history, not her story. Because on the 30 page of the concept, it's very, very, very almost nothing or minor about the woman struggle of Indonesian, development. So I asked this. The first one is the women. Is your project will include her story, perspective, not only his story. And he said, yeah, of course. I know. I asked them. I asked the team to also put that. And then I said, included the women who become victim of the May riots 1998, Ibu, let me read his comments. So yeah.
She was really good. It was very smooth. First, you're just chatting
I
about
just
her story, and
included
then,
them and like,
then
yes, and here Fadli answered. The question is this: women's history, if it becomes the domain of historian, what happens? We never really know. Are there hard facts? If they exist, we debate. We can debate. Now about mass rape. Was there mass rape or not? Who says so? There has never been any proof that is a story. If it exists, show me. Is it in any history book? It has never been there. Rumors like that, in my opinion, will not solve anything. So the day after that, the podcast published on 10th of June, and then on 11th of June, the activists, women activists, all the activists made a press conference that, of course, again. So fast forward, now there is a law submit by the commission, by the civil coalition to the Indonesia Administrative Court and also the Constitutional Court against the process of that, and also the statement of the Minister of Culture that deny that there is a mass rape in May riots.
So this is amazing, and Ibu Uni's podcast got tons of attention, and really it became viral right away. But that's not the only issue here, right? That Pak Bani, maybe you can talk a little bit about. There's a whole ideology behind this new rewriting of history.
I want to follow up to Mbak Uni has shared to us. After Fadlizon gave his interview to Uni talk show, right, in ADN Times. So I smell something fishy, I think, refer to the Stanley Cohen theory about the state denial of on human rights. There are three kind of denial. The first, literal denial. It means that the state directly denying the violence committed by the state. And then the second form of denial is interpretative denial, meaning that the state say, they acknowledge the violence committed by the state, but they're trying to reduce the meaning, even, they're trying to stay away from the, from the event by giving the new meaning. Right? Like if someone has been tortured, and then the state will say, oh, that's part of the interrogation. That's part of how the interrogator want to dig more information from the person that being interrogating by the interrogator. And then the third is implicatory denial. It means that the state acknowledge the violence event, and then also they accept the meaning of the violence event, but they refuse to responsible, to give any responsibility to the violence. And what Fadlizon have done in this project, I think it is a part of, it can categorize as interpretative denial.
Sure.
Because when he said about the mass rape, right? He said, oh yeah, I I admit that there was a, after the protest, of course, I admit that there was a rape. But using the word mass, it's like a terrible. It's a
Right.
horror thing. So he said, like it's also part of the denial actually.
Right.
So that's why me and also my colleague in the parliament, especially from PDIP fractions, become more critical to him because of his statement. So that he's actually denying the fact
Sure.
of the
And
violence.
I'm sure it's, well, you tell me, I imagine, yes, this is a huge issue, but what about 1965? Is that going to be in the history? And do we
Yeah.
know about that yet? And
Yeah, but tone of voice, I mean the perspective back to New Order, back to Suharto perspective.
right,
For instance, they use PKI,
yeah,
G30 PKI,
Yeah.
instead of,
It's after,
making a new...
during the new order, we every 30th of September, all of the Indonesian people, especially students, mandatory to watch this movie created by
movie.
Suharto regime. And then when reformasi, no mandatory
longer, yeah.
anymore, and we call it not G30S PKI, but G30S, just September. Because there is a new fact finding that the questioning whether PKI is really the
Right.
only one, right?
Yeah.
But, we afraid that this project, because what Fadlizon doing now is repeating the new order playbook.
right. And ideology, right? That
Yeah.
the New Order kind of sidelined Sukarno and his contributions, right?
Yeah.
And then leading to the 30th of September movement and
Yeah.
the
Yeah, not only about the women that does not exist in the book before we protest him, but also about the conference of Asian African Conference.
absolutely, yeah,
There is no story about Asian African Congress
yeah.
in the book.
And didn't you and Budi Setiono edit a collection of
Yeah,
Sukarno's
yes,
letters? And so
yes.
you're an expert on Sukarno.
Yes.
And I guess Sukarno will probably have a kind of
Yeah, Indonesia under New Order, there was a terminology de-Sukarnoisasi or
yeah.
de-Sukarnoization.
yeah,
So the Sukarno was put aside.
right,
He was not a factor,
right.
right, in history.
Well, they have to acknowledge that he's the proclamator, and they have to acknowledge the Bandung
Yes.
Conference. But then it they don't say much after that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, that's
Even
why.
though Prabowo always mentioned that I admire Sukarno, Even he is in the podium of UNGA last month. He tried to image like.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say then that we are concerned that this new official history is going to repeat the ideology of the Orde Baru, of Suharto, kind of continue to sideline Sukarno?
That's
and,
what we. We against that
yeah,
idea.
Of course.
Well, in Parliament, when we invite him for the hearing meeting at the Parliament, we are very critical to the term official history.
Right.
Because I convey the question to him:
Right.
if you call this project as an official history of
Narasi
Indonesia,
tunggal,
yeah,
Right.
so there will be unofficial, even illegal,
Yeah.
and then a subversion history.
Oh, right. Yeah. Then
So
there's
that's
the
very
illegal
complicated.
history.
And then in front of the journalist, he said, "Okay, we would not use
The official.
the official history."
Wow.
But the plans keep going. They will launch. Well, actually, it has been postponed
Right.
2 times.
Yeah.
They will launch.
The plan was as a gift to Indonesia 80 years independence
On 7 August.
during the 17th of August. But I think because the widespread protest,
Right.
it delayed. I don't know until.
Yeah, I said,
on
Ibu
December.
Uni a WhatsApp. Did they ever release this thing? No, they didn't. So, Bani, do you know who the historians are? Does anybody know?
Only 3 of them. Only the
Only
coordinator.
3?
3 of them.
Wow.
That's also my question. Only 3 historians out of 100, and even the number of historians are changing. Every time 113, 120. It's like floating.
Yeah, I really have to emphasize that Bani, as the founding editor of Historia, you are very involved in Indonesian history.
Yeah.
Right? Do you want to?
Yeah,
Can you
because
maybe a quick side? Can you tell us
Ibu,
about
yeah,
Historia? Your
Ibu,
goals.
because
there?
Historia later on. Maybe. So I want to say that actually this project can be futile. It is useless, to write the national history and then the book will be the only reference of our national history. Meanwhile, the young generation could access ChatGPT easily to get every answer about the history that they questioning. So I think that's also my critic to the ministry. So it is futile.
Kind of
You
a waste of
spend
money.
almost 10 million rupiah. I don't know what equal in dollar.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. So it will be useless.
So
So
it's-
why don't you encourage public history, strengthen the role of museum, and then give money to community, to young community that are concerned to history.
Right.
That's more, powerful initiative.
Everyone should take a look at the Historia website because it has English stories. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
All kinds of interesting things that I don't think are going to make it into the official state history, which is a pity. But
Yeah.
you're a real pioneer in creating this kind of popular history that people actually read.
Yeah, but actually we take a, position as a transmitter of the knowledge history from academic
Right.
room to the public sphere.
Right.
That's our job, Historia. So we are trying to, popularize.
Yeah.
Instead of reading very thick book with a lot of footnote, So we extract the message from the scholarly writing,
Right.
then we spread out the message to people in a popular way.
And I was also interested, you have a call for writers there. So if any young people want to study some history, you can look at the website and make a contribution too. And you have very explicit instructions for contributors that you're trying to get new voices.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so many things we can talk about. This state history, I also wonder, is this connected to the nomination of former President Suharto as one of 40 national heroes, right? That just what can you who wants to tell us about the national hero controversy?
Mbak Uni
Yeah,
first.
it's a one package, Ibu Janet, with the rewriting the history. Because Fadlizon said, to answer my question, that he wants to make sure that the history rewrite it in unifies tone, meaning because he said harmony. This is like the eighth Astacita, the vision and mission of President Prabowo, harmony.
And of Suharto, right?
So there is a story about Sukarno and all of the president, but and all of the because his argumentation that after the last one 2016 there was no history book written, right? That's why he came for the, but all the history that he wants to rewrite is in the positive tone, not the fact. I mean, he denied about the fact that the nation, the society experience not only the good one, but
Right.
also the bad experience. But Fadlizon doesn't want to put it in the new history book,
I'm confused about something.
including
But
acknowledging Suharto as
Right.
the national hero.
who gets to be, who are the national heroes now? Like, how many of them are there? It seems like 40
Many of
nominees
them.
is a lot.
Many of them.
Have they always?
Hundreds, but mostly the real hero from the movement, like since the Dutch colonialism.
Is Sukarno a national hero?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so he's one.
Yeah.
Like, who else is a?
As many of them,
Many of
almost
them.
200 people.
Okay.
I couldn't memorize all.
Oh, okay. So
the name of
so
the-
40 nominees makes sense. I thought, wow, that's a lot of candidate
Yeah.
national heroes. So what are the criteria? What do you have to do to be a national hero?
Well, it's interesting to, if you read the media lately, there are some politicians trying to defend this idea. And they say, yeah, we have to admit that Suharto also maybe has a dark
Bapak
side.
Pembangunan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have to
Development
acknowledge
father.
his role, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is the requirement being nominated as a national hero is so perfect. You cannot have any flaw in
I
your
see.
life. Okay, that's a problem. Okay, but 4 years, especially under Suharto era, 30 years history book, national history has been used to legitimize his role,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
in the past. Because, Suharto was not elected as a result of the democratic election,
Right.
right? He was rise from national crisis in 1965, and he was appointed as a president, not even elected.
And
There was no election. So one of the way, maybe the only way to get legitimacy from people is to create a history that tells the people about his role. For instance, in Jogja, 1945, he was the leader of the general attack against the Dutch soldier in 1949.
Yeah.
That was the way he got the legitimacy. If you are leader, you are elected from democratic election, so you are legitimate to be a leader.
And even his appointment is somewhat, a little shady how that even happened. Pop Bani is being kind of modest. I read a story in Compass that you're like the leader of this effort to refuse to name Suharto a national hero.
Well, yeah, this is a part of our official decision from
party,
PDIP, for the
the party,
party.
yeah. Yeah, it's
But
interesting.
since 2014, when Prabowo, bring the idea to nominate Suharto as a hero, I'm opposing this idea.
Yeah, you're quoted as saying, he says that Suharto is indeed a toko bangsa, which would be
Yeah.
what, like a national figure?
Yes.
Okay, but he said his history of violating human rights, corruption, the order baru cannot be ignored. So that's
Yeah,
the
because
thing.
I'm worried if he nominated as a national hero and then at the end of the day he will be the national hero. The young generation will we don't have an ideal type of the public leader.
Right. Yeah.
One of the reasons why we have political reform or reformasi, we limit the power
Right.
Period
only
of
the
time.
period of time, only 2 times.
Right.
Right? That's the reason. So the reason why we have this reformasi, because we want to to make
Correct,
now better than what we had under Suharto era. So why should us making him as a national hero? Meanwhile, we are today, correcting his period, 32 years in office. So we will lose the ideal type of a public officer, public leader.
Last year's festival was a big theme is the era of reform over? Is reformasi over? And I know that was a big discussion. A lot of people who were on panels said, yeah, it is. And it's interesting. I liked how David Van Reyboek said, making Suharto a national hero is like giving Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. That it's just, this isn't original to me, it's what he said, but it's true.
This is part of the impunity, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
because despite a lot of fact and evidence that under Suharto era there is a lot of human right violation and also a lot of corruption case, included suspected included his foundation,
Yeah.
but he never brought to trial.
Right.
And this is part of the President Habibie, I must say, because I published the story in 1999, the leaked telephone conversation between President Habibie and the Attorney General at that time that probably asked the Attorney General not to follow up the corruption cases. Right. So that's why now we're against that. We don't want to repeat that mistake. Yeah, I think included the journalists, this is the autocritic, included the journalists give the blank check to the government, to the Habibie government, the one that took over and replaced Suharto. We just, okay, there is a reformation, Suharto stepped down, and then that's it. All of us.
Keeps going on. There we go. It's back on. This is such a great topic, but there are some other topics I think we should cover. And here I'd like to turn a little bit to Pop Bonnie, because I thought your interview with David van Riebeeck was great, which to me then raised a bunch of other questions that you asked him, and I would like to ask you. One of, this whole effort at decolonizing Indonesian history. Yes, and his book is fantastic, and all these things are happening. You actually asked some questions about class, about race. Are these Dutch inheritances? Is this inherited from the period of colonization? What do you think about? Has Indonesian history been completely decolonized? I mean, could one argue that maybe? And you'll have to forgive me, I'm just going to ask it. I mean, is it now so Java-centric? How we think about Papua, how we think about remote places. I mean, is there a new kind of...
Yeah.
Tell us what you think.
It's a never-ending effort, to decolonize not only our history writing, historical narrative. But we also have to decolonize our mind, language, knowledge, and so on and so forth. And then, as a politician, when I'm running a campaign as a candidate, I went to the village. Yeah, I went to the village. I met the people who live in the village. Yeah, they know nothing about democracy. They don't really interested to my campaign. Who was explaining about a lot of program. I was explaining to them. They don't want to hear it. So it showed how the relation between the elite and the mass and the people, and the relation between elite and the mass, it resembled like Indonesia back then in 19th century or 18th century. It's so.
Were you surprised by that?
No. What I want to tell you is that, we are now embrace democracy, right? But the people who live in village, many of them, are still being patronized, right? So they will follow what the head of village have said.
Were you surprised by that? Did that surprise you, or did you already know that would be the case?
Well, initially I already knew about that from book.
Okay.
So when I'm running my campaign, I went to the village meeting people. Then okay, this is exists. Okay, we still have this kind of models, right? Then I think, is it the democracy, the pure democracy we have now? Because every time we have an election, the president candidate will invite the head of district, head of village, and ask them to instruct their people to give their vote to certain, president candidate. Well, in democracy, in the real democracy, people will have a one man, one vote. But in Indonesia, in this system, in this, old
Pattern.
character
Right.
of the people, it is like a one man, 1,000 vote. So it is actually not democracy we want. This is feudalized system. And that is makes sense because in 1950, just to mention, Dan I did, he wrote a brochure, very interesting. He said, Dan Adit is Indonesian, is a chairman of Indonesian Communist Party. But he said, Indonesia actually half feudalized and half colonized because we didn't have a successful social revolution to change the whole structure of society. The people, feudal people, the aristocracy who were under the Dutch colonization, the government, the Dutch East Indies government maintained them, keep them alive. They use them as a henchman to control the people. So when Indonesia gained independence, we only launched the national democratic revolution, but we don't have social revolution. If you read Anton Lucas, in the northern coast of Central Java, there was a revolution, social revolution in Aceh, in East Sumatra, in Banten, in my hometown, there was a social revolution, but they failed. And the initiative to change the structure that we inherit from the colonial era actually started in 1960 when we launched the regulation, the law of agrarian reform. That's actually the revolution. That's actually the social revolution. But then failed in 1965.
Right. One could point out that the Communist Party, thank you. One could point out that the Communist Party actually had proposed a social revolution, which of course was a failure or was ended. Yeah. And so that's all part of this history project, right? To sort of say, well, to not even acknowledge.
Well, but in the history project, they would not write this topic because this is not a tone of positive tone. Right. Yeah, well, they want harmony, but I'm worried if they couldn't make any difference. What is harmony and subjugation? Yeah. Because sometimes harmony, when people live under threat, and then the power subjugate them. That's a harmony. Right. And harmony doesn't comes from the consensus.
So is PDIP and is your party really taking this on as an issue, or is this your issue? Are there others with you who support this idea, or because this is all related, right? The new official state history, the who gets to be a national hero, sort of defeudalizing as well as decolonizing history. Is this your struggle, aided by journalists like Uni, who will write about it, or are you just like, Don Quixote fighting windmills, or are there others who feel like you? Are you part of a movement here? That's what I'm curious about.
Politics is always dynamic, Yeah. When I'm elected as a member of parliament from PDIP, of course I had a discussion with my colleague in the parliament, especially in the Commission 10. Yeah. So it is not my own proposal. Right. This is not my own issue. Yeah. So it can, after the discussion we have, after the meeting we had, this is the official statement, this is the official decision of the party.
That's good. So the party is behind this now.
That's what we do in parliament. Yeah. So this is not Boni issue, not only, and this is a people issue and also the party issue, official.
The reason I asked if you were out there on your own sort of tilting at windmills like Don Quixote is when I was reading about you, I was so interested in your role in this exhibition on Indonesian independence in the Netherlands, and you were very courageous. Do you want to tell us about the issue over Bersiap and what happened? And
yeah, well, that commotion was start actually because I'm one of the co-curator. There
A
was
huge
four,
honor, by the way. Yeah.
four curators. Then we had a meeting, and one of my colleagues in the Rex Museum was raised an idea to make one of the room at the exhibition using using the title Bersiap.
And please
to-
explain what that means.
Bersiap, well, ya get ready. It's just a word for Indonesian. Bersiap just a normal word. It doesn't have any important meaning for us in Indonesia, for Indonesian. But for some Indo-European community that were, used to be live in Indonesia before the war, this is very important terminology. It became very loaded, you know. It has a lot of meaning. It is like a contested terminology, right? Because for the Dutch, it is show what you call it, the trauma period for them. Meanwhile, for Indonesia, it doesn't have.
Right. This
meaning.
is also in the
So-
book Revolusi, right?
Yeah.
That it's Indo-European Indonesians were under attack, and like I think
Yeah.
6,000 people were killed.
For
and
more than
very
70
traumatic.
years in the Netherlands, people were never talking about this because they are traumatized, because it is not easy to discuss this openly. And then I start to, I'm writing an article actually. I sent it to the Dutch newspaper, NRC, on 13 January 22. And then it immediately ignite widespread reaction, especially from the Indo-European community. And I was reported to the police station. Oh my God! And then it became a commotion.
Yeah. You were accused of genocidal denial, and a Dutch
Well,
lawmaker.
actually, what I want to explain is the historical context of this terminology. I'm not denying the fact.
Right. Yeah.
Also, this is not interpretative denial.
Right.
So what I want to say in my article is explaining merely about the historical context, why you people in the Netherlands using this terminology, while we are Indonesian, we know nothing
Right.
about this,
Right.
right? So bring forward the idea to use another terminology we have in Indonesia as a balance,
Right.
terms.
Yeah.
Like according to my grandmother, she was born in 1926, and then she was experienced under Dutch army attack in 1946, 1948, and my grandmother family had to flee from the village where they live. That's also part of violence.
Right, yeah.
People forced to leave their own house because the Dutch army attacked
Sure.
the village.
Oh, yeah.
That's also part of the violence, and they called this spirit as a ngeli. Ngeli means moving from one place to another.
Right.
Ngeli, it's like a refuge, right?
Yeah.
So I use ngeli equal to bersiap, and then gedoran mean knocking somebody's house. That's also the
Right.
violence action in Depok, in West Java, and many of them. That's also part of people to describe the period that they are experienced
Right.
during the revolution. That's what I want to explain. And all of a sudden,
A big
one
brouhaha.
organization report me to
Yeah.
police station, and lucky I was not in jail.
Yeah, it's very. This became international news. I found a story in the New York Times about it, and then the museum was accused of woke madness, and there was genocidal denial charged against you, and it's very interesting just how still contested that term is. And you
Yes.
said it was racist. You said that the way it is used in the Netherlands was racist.
Ibu Janet, okay. Actually, I don't want to take your time too
No,
much.
I have a question for her next.
Well, actually, okay, every time Dutch people talking about bersiap, when we ask them who is the victim, they will say, okay, there are 5 category of victim. First, the Dutch, the white man, and the second, the Indo-European or the Indo. And then the third, Chinese. Fourth, Ambonese. Fifth, Manadonese. So we have 3 category of race and then 2 ethnicity. And then when we ask who is the perpetrator, the pemuda, Indonesian. And if we ask them, what is Indonesian? Who are Indonesian? Is that Indonesia is single identity based on race or based on religion or what? They couldn't explain.
Right.
So what I want to explain is this has a racist tendency, because as a historian, if you use your helicopter view, you can be agree with this category and then also the narrative of the event. But if you use fish eyes
Right.
to dive more deeper and then to see the granularity of stories you have in the history, you will find a lot of gray area.
Oh, sure. Oh,
For
sure.
instance, I found the fact that one Chinese man in East Java, he was arrested by the Dutch because he was killed 2 Dutch army. And he is a Chinese, and he could categorize as a victim of Bersia, but he is Chinese, fought in Republican, in Indonesian side.
Yeah, and all
So
of this.
how can you explain the complexity of his story
it's
if
very
you have
nuanced.
a black and
But
white
I
perspective?
think you can all see how Pak Bani is a fighter and very courageous and willing to speak the truth. So is Ibu Uni. And I thought before we take questions from the audience, maybe you could tell us about this conference that, I'll hand this to you in a second, this conference you did as a result of the whole thing about the May rapes, called what it was called, Strengthen the Mandate, Reject the Denial of Sexual Violence in May 1998. You moderated a 3-hour panel with all kinds of people talking about what had happened, and tell us about that. What you wrote to me was very moving.
Actually, Fadli denial and nice try to manipulate the history kind of like give the shock to the National Commission on Women. So in 15th of October this year, they celebrate their 27 years of anniversary, and they purposely took the theme strengthening the mandate, challenging the denial, reject the denial on the violence against women in May riots 1998, because that's actually things that made the commission exist, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And there were like hundreds of the historian witness, included the member of fact finding and also the victim and the victim family. Some of them living abroad after the May, because a lot of Chinese descent family leave the country after that riot. It's always traumatized whenever there is riots. So the airport in Jakarta flooded by the Chinese descent that didn't want to experience the thing, and 3 hours listening to their story, their conversation, is like that tragedy, like the movie for me, the tragedy replayed again. It's create the tight in the chest for everyone, and of course, at the feeling the anger towards Radizon and the government.
And you launched this. I mean, that was that podcast. It's quite amazing.
I never intend to do so. You know, the journalists never intend to do so, but the journalist, I think, whenever we met with the resource person and have an opportunity to ask the question, and we did the follow-up question, right? That happened on the follow-up question.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of like the Fadli zone and this government, like I said, is doing the playbook of Suharto in everything.
Right.
This centralization. Now they create a military battalion in all of the 514 kabupaten and kota. It's like territorial approach, military approach during the Suharto, right? So this has happened. And again, as a journalist, Bu Janet, I'm very worried. I'm very worried because the media is not in a good situation.
Right.
When the media is not in a good situation in terms of business, right? And they are more and more depend on the support from the advertisement from the government, whether in central government until to the local. The question is, can you still become the independent newsroom when you accept quite significant advertisement from the government? So it's, if you see, the media actually just publish what Faridon said, denial, what Bonnie said, what the Komnas, the activist said, but never really doing what you call the movement.
Well,
the
you're doing it,
campaign.
and Papmani's doing it, and I think.
But we cannot do it by ourselves, right? We need more.
That's true, but both of you are doing it, which is why it's so wonderful you're here and talking to this audience. And we've got, I think, 10 minutes for questions. If we have quick questions, please no speeches, just the question. Yes.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for this amazing session. So, I've been watching this documentary called Dirty Vote. It's about the background of the election of Prabowo Subianto. So, I would like to know regarding your opinion, because they say that all of this initiative, questionable initiative from the government, stems from the insecurity from Prabowo, because of maybe because they win with 50% winning, but they're still insecure. So what do you think about that?
Prior to the election we had in the last years, some of the pollster and the survey polls company was, announcing the score of the polling they had, and then they announced that the Prabowo could possibly reach the score of the polling 58%. So that's a prior to the election, right? And then they keep the number 58%. And for the first time in our election history, prediction become the truth when the election. This is something, makes me wonder and, curious. How did they do it, 58% 3 months before the election, and then 58% when the election result was announced. It's exactly 58%. So
No coincidence.
So it was, suspicious, right? But I don't want to take any further, to that polling business, or survey business, because it's not my cup of tea. But what I want to say is that, the election we had last year, many election experts, even political observers said that was the brutal election we ever have in Indonesia. I experienced that. Many candidates, not only in president level, but also because we also had an election for the parliament, right, from the local level until the national level. People had their party. They got a lot of money from the candidate. It was brutal election, so to speak. And also I heard the police involvement in election. They persuade, or even they,
That also happened in 2019 when your political party supporting Jokowi, right? So it's repeated again with different different candidate.
I'm not going to defend, but in the level of brutality, you know.
Yeah, but I want to add just a short. The second one is even Prabowo say that I can won the election because the support from Jokowi. That's for sure. He said that openly. Yeah. So that's probably the insecurity also. And the second one is one of the things that Prabowo campaign is to get the economic growth 8%. And that 8% in our history only happened during the New Order, during his former father-in-law period of era. So he believed, that's why I think he believed that all should be become centralized. I think that's part of the insecure too.
Okay. How about a history question? Yes. I know none of these work as far as I can tell.
Very good. Yes, history question. As we see his story devolve into his bias on the part of the powerful, usually, as historians, the three of you, can you tell us what criteria should be used to establish and verify what qualifies as history, generally?
That's
I would say no state history. Like, why do we need a state history? We don't need the official state history. I would say that's automatically disqualified. But do you all have answers for this? Or?
I wrote the statement by Philip Graham, which is in 1940 also mentioned by Alan Butt. Philip Graham, the publisher of the Washington Post, the journalist wrote the first rough draft of history. And then the author do the second draft, and then the academician, the academic research, do the third draft. So yeah, it's but I believe that as a journalist, history should be wrote by the fact, which and if we say the fact within all kind of fact, the truth. And I'm glad that in the era of digital, no one can monopolize the truth. No one can monopolize the information. I hear from the National Commission of Women, after Fadlizon's statement, the most downloaded book published by the commission was the book about the fact-finding commission. So the Gen Z, you know, triggered by Fadlizon, wants to know what happened, because before probably they don't care, but
Thanks
after that, thanks to Fadlizon, the most downloaded book from the commission is about the rape case.
yeah. I think the more inclusive history, I mean, in this respect, the sources, the better. And when the power take all the history as if that is, you know, what you call it, to control people's memory, that is, we experience that under Suharto era. Now, history is being written by the government, right? And they are trying, this is the second trial of the government after Suharto did this, to control memory of society, of the people. So that is something I don't want to have now. So I think we should promote the inclusivity in history rewriting project. So not only using certain sources that give benefit to the power, to those in power only, but also should acknowledge the role of many people in society, women, children, artists, writer, many of them. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Time's up, but Pak Bani and Bu Uni are going to be around. Ask them questions. Thank you so much. Thanks to the wonderful audience.